Hey class, welcome to week 6. Sorry this video is going up a little bit later in the day than normal, but I'm on baby duty this week as my wife is out of town for business. So if he runs in here screaming at any point, just I guess stay along for the ride because it's been mine a couple days. So I want to spend just a second today just talking about what we've just done in terms of week 5 and how that's all kind of setting us up to actually start doing a lot of research, to start learning a lot more about your community, and to start putting together this literature review that I introduced last week and that you've been thinking about for this past week. But just real quick, I want to touch on some Project 2 stuff. So I noticed that all of you turned in your Project 2, which is amazing. You're actually the first class that I've ever taught where every single student has turned in their assignments on time without a lot of different caveats and stuff like that. So really good job on that, guys. I'm really happy with how well you guys are keeping up with the work. And also just with the quality of work that I'm seeing. I think you guys are doing a really good job being self-motivated and taking it upon yourself to email me if you have questions, things like that. So I'm really pleased with this. Now, that said, some of you did not do the blog for this week, blog 3, I believe the number was, which asked you to come up with research questions and a research plan. Now, as you know, I don't accept late work. However, I still think it would be in your best interest to kind of look at the prompt anyway, because that is a prompt that will help you do a lot of research for this project. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about where we've been and where we're going, and then we'll see how Project 6 fits into all, or Project 6, Week 6 fits into all this. Okay, so last week, remember, I had you read the descriptions, right? So now you should have a somewhat of an overview of what Projects 3A and 3B are, and I'll talk more about 3B in just a minute. But the literature review and then the presentation of your research, you should have an idea of what those are. And then I asked you to read this rhetorical reading and review it from the week previous. So let's look at what's coming up. So for this week, really what we're going to be doing is we're going to be kicking off our research. And what we're actually doing is we're looking for the sources that we're going to review in your literature review. So if you remember, a literature review is a collection of 8 to 10 articles written by members of your community. And these articles should all be discussing essentially the same topic or topics, if there's a couple related ones. But the idea here is that you're going to think about an issue that you care about in your community. And a lot of this might come out of your research questions. So once you did a little bit of preliminary research, what were some questions that you had about your community, or what were some of the problems that you noticed? Are there problems that you care about? So for example, as an educator, I'm interested in how we can lower the cost of tuition, for example. Like that would be a question that I have, is how can we lower the cost of tuition? And so what I would do is I would go out and I would find 8 to 10 sources, if I were doing this project, that are talking about ways to lower tuition, or talking about the tuition crisis in general, right? And what I would do is I would take those 8 to 10 sources and I would summarize them, and then I would kind of think about how are these people responding to each other's arguments. Do any of their arguments overlap? Do any of them disagree with each other, and so on and so forth? And that's what a literature review is. You're showing me what the current conversation is in your field around a certain topic. Okay, and so week 6 is how we're going to kick this off. So with the research guide and the question that you kind of came up with in your last blog post, we're going to actually start using the library databases to look for these articles. Now remember, these have to be scholarly or peer-reviewed articles. These can't be from like Time Magazine, Popular Magazine. These things have to be kind of vetted through the editing process, the peer review process. Okay, so let's look. So for this week, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking and reading what we're going to call launch text. Now your goal for this week is to find 2 to 3 articles that you might want to use, or that you think might be like a good basis for this project. And your goal for this week is just to find those 2 or 3 and then read them. And then you'll be, for your blog at the end of the week, because we have a blog this week, you'll be kind of just posting a summary of those launch texts, essentially. So that's your goal. We're going to kind of try to compartmentalize this giant research project into this week-to-week thing. So your goal for this week, just think two articles. That's all I need, 2 articles. And so that's what we're doing. So then for next week, if we look at week 7, what we'll be doing is we will be reading and doing more research and finding more texts that are responding to or that relate to those launch texts. You'll be doing an annotated bibliography for the sources that you found. And I'll explain what that is next week if you don't know. The following week, Same thing. You'll be continuing to collect sources, and you'll be drafting as you go. You'll be putting together summaries and things like this uh, of your articles, and you'll be uploading, as you can see here, your project 3B. Now, let me talk about project 3B for a minute. Now, if you remember, 3A is the literature review. 3B, if you remember what you read, is the presentation of your research. Now, I want to stress that this is very much a work in progress thing, right? So you're not necessarily presenting a finished research project. But what you might be talking about or putting together a presentation of are those 2 launch texts that you found, right? Or a couple sources that you found, right? You're only presenting us a chunk of your research and talking to us about what you found so far and kind of what questions it's raised for you or where you think this might go. Again, this is very much like you're just talking to us about your experience so far and giving us kind of a quick rundown of some of your sources. Now, the way that we're going to do this is we're going to do this through PowerPoint. So you're actually going to create a PowerPoint presentation, which should be around 20 slides. And what these slides are going to do is you're just going to have kind of broad overview information of your sources or any kind of discussion that you want to put in there. Now, what I'd like to do, because I want this to be more of a presentation than a slideshow, is PowerPoint has a way to actually record your voice as the slides are playing. So you're going to be talking to us about the information as it's going on. So instead of just me reading a slideshow, it would be like, here's some information on the screen, and let me just kind of talk about that information to illuminate a little bit more. Now, what I'm going to do this week and next week is I'm going to post a lot of videos and resources explaining exactly how to do this and what this looks like. I'll post some examples and things like that so you have a good sense of what this is actually going to shake out like. But this will all be kind of coming due the week before your final 3A is due. Because again, 3B is just supposed to be a way for you to get used to synthesizing a couple different sources by talking about a couple different sources. And it's really good practice for when you come into week 9 and actually put 8 to 10 sources into conversation with each other. Okay, so let's recap. Week 6, you're finding your launch text. Week 7, you're finding some more articles. Week 8, you're finding some more, and you're going to be uploading just kind of a presentation work in progress. Week 9, which is July 4th, the week of July 4th, your literature review will be due. Okay, so that's where we're going. So let's take a look at some detailed stuff right here. So all I want you to focus on for this week is to really start to think about how you're going to go about doing this research. So think about that worksheet or that kind of activity that I had you guys do, I think it was last week, about generating research questions and then generating keywords out of those questions. And those keywords will form like your backbone for going to the library. Now, if none of you have used the library before, let me just give you a quick description or demonstration. So you'll log into your Blackboard, or not Blackboard, but to your wayne.edu. Go to libraries. Boop, boop, boop. Go to this menu button up here. Okay, now there's a couple different things that we can go to right now. We've got article databases, so if you know a database that you can use and you have kind of a go-to one, that's great, you can click on that. The catalog will take you to physical books in the library. So if that's something that you want to use, great. If you are on campus and have access to that, great. And the other thing that we can look for is this research guides thing down here. So let's go look at this. So if you remember from Project 1 when I showed you guys this, this is just an easy way to kind of quickly refine your searches to only use resources related to your field, right? And so you go into these guides, you find an overall topic related to your field, and the librarian for that field will have laid out specific resources for that. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I know for my field, I know Project Muse is a really good one. So I'd go into the databases, I'd go find Project Muse. Here we go. Click on here. All right, and this is where the keyword thing comes in, right? And so I always encourage you guys to do an advanced search because this will kind of fill in those and or none stuff like this. So let's just say English. See, it's going to kick back everything related to English and Renaissance, and that's kind of how you do it. So you could do, for example, and I don't know what this is kind of a liberal arts thing, so no one's going to kick back. Yeah, so this isn't a database devoted to these kind of topics, but even so, I use these and it gave me a couple sources that are linking these ideas. Now, if I wasn't a database that's more related to these topics, it would kick back a lot more, right? But because I know this is more of a liberal arts database, it filtered out all the stuff that I probably wouldn't want. Okay. Okay, so that's just a quick rundown on how to use the library. Obviously, email me if you have questions, guys. But really, like I said, I'm really happy with what I'm seeing. I will get your project twos back to you within the next couple days so you have them. Other than that, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.